The phone wouldn't stop vibrating. 47 missed calls on Wednesday, 63 by Thursday. By Friday morning, the number had crossed 100. Each vibration brought a strange sense of satisfaction as I sat in my new apartment with a cup of coffee, watching the company that had overlooked me struggle without realizing why. 5 days earlier, I had walked out of Apex Technologies carrying nothing but a small box of personal belongings. No argument, no scene, just a smile that confused everyone. Minutes before leaving, my manager, Keith Sullivan, had announced that the senior systems architect promotion, the one I had spent 3 years earning, was going to Damien Cross. Damien wasn't a bad engineer. He simply wasn't the best one. He was charismatic, spoke confidently in meetings, played golf with Keith every weekend, remembered birthdays, brought donuts on Fridays, and somehow always stayed visible. I congratulated him, shook his hand, smiled at Keith, then quietly returned to my desk. Without deleting a single file, I disabled every automation system I had personally created over the past 3 years. The monitoring tools, the automatic recovery scripts, the load balancing optimizations. Everything remained inside the company repository. Nothing was destroyed. Nothing was sabotaged. The systems simply stopped running. Then I submitted my resignation, effective immediately. Nobody realized what had just happened. My name is Theodora Vance, though everyone called me Thea. I was 32 years old and had spent 6 years at Apex Technologies, working my way from junior developer to the engineer responsible for keeping the company's entire back-end stable. My parents owned a small hardware store in Ohio. They taught me that people mattered more than profits. My father repaired equipment for struggling neighbors without charging them. My mother quietly slipped extra supplies into shopping bags whenever families couldn't afford everything they needed. Growing up that way taught me 2 lessons: work hard, and never let people mistake kindness for weakness. Keith Sullivan had been doing exactly that. Every performance review described me as essential. Every year I was promised that promotion would happen next time, next quarter, next budget, next project. 3 years of next time. Then, 18 months earlier, Damien joined the company. He was capable enough to handle normal development work, but he wasn't the person solving production emergencies at 2 in the morning. That was me. I designed the company's entire infrastructure upgrade. I created monitoring systems that detected failures before anyone noticed. I built automatic recovery tools that restored services in minutes instead of hours. I trained new developers, mentored junior engineers, improved reliability from constant outages to near-perfect uptime. Most people didn't even know those systems existed, because when infrastructure works perfectly, nobody notices. 6 months before I resigned, Keith announced a brand new senior systems architect position. He looked directly at me. "Thea, this role has your name written all over it." I believed him. Over the next 4 months, I built an entirely new deployment system on my own time. Containerized infrastructure, zero downtime deployments, detailed documentation, training guides, everything. The project would save the company nearly $300,000 every year. Keith loved it. The CTO praised it. The executive presentation was a success. "This is exactly what we're looking for," Keith told me. "The announcement should happen by the end of the month." Instead, Tuesday morning arrived. Keith gathered the engineering department. 23 engineers filled the conference room. He smiled proudly. "I'm excited to announce our new senior systems architect." My heart stayed calm. I already knew what was coming. Damien Cross. The room applauded. Damien looked surprised. I smiled, clapped politely, congratulated him sincerely. Then Keith pulled me into his office. "I know you wanted the position. he said, avoiding eye contact. But Damien has stronger communication skills. He's better with executives and clients. So this isn't about technical ability? Oh no, Keith replied quickly. Technically, you're the strongest engineer here. We just need someone with better soft skills. Soft skills. Apparently 3 years of overtime, saving critical systems, training half the department, and designing the company's future. Lost to golf games and office politics. Keith smiled. The truth is, we need you exactly where you are. Damien will handle strategy. You'll continue handling execution. In other words, Damien would receive the title. I'd continue doing the work. For the same salary. I simply nodded. I understand. Back at my desk, I opened my banking app. I had enough savings to live comfortably for more than a year. Recruiters contacted me almost every week. Finding another job wouldn't be difficult. Then I made a list. Everything inside Apex that depended on me. The monitoring systems, the automated failover tools, the nightly repair jobs, the traffic optimization scripts, the database recovery automation. Nearly every reliability improvement had been created voluntarily. None of it existed in my official job description. Most wasn't documented beyond my own notes. The code remained, but understanding it required knowledge that existed only inside my head. I checked old incident reports. Before my improvements, the company averaged 4 major outages every month. Since I'd taken over, only 2 outages had occurred in 3 years. Neither had been our fault. That's when I made my decision. I opened a blank document, typed a simple resignation letter. Professional, respectful, effective immediately. Then I quietly began removing every invisible safety net I had built. I didn't delete a single file. That would have been sabotage. Instead, I simply disabled every automation system I'd personally built. The monitoring jobs stopped running. The automatic recovery scripts were turned off. The load balancing configurations were restored to their original defaults. Everything was still there. Anyone could find it, if they knew where to look. The detailed documentation for my new infrastructure project had been created on my own laptop during my personal time. It wasn't company property. I archived it and removed it from my cloud storage. 3 hours later, Apex's infrastructure looked exactly the way it had when I'd first joined the company. Functional, but fragile. It would survive normal traffic. The first unexpected spike or database issue, however, would expose every weakness. At 1 o'clock, I walked into Keith's office and handed him my resignation letter. His expression changed instantly. Effective immediately? Yes. Thea, is this about the promotion? We can discuss a raise. Maybe another title. I appreciate that, but I've already made my decision. You can't leave like this. My employment contract allows immediate resignation if I forfeit 2 weeks' salary. HR confirmed it this morning. Keith's frustration turned into anger. This is incredibly unprofessional after everything this company has done for you. I smiled politely. I've given this company 6 years of exceptional work. I'm leaving legally and professionally. Then I walked away. Packing my desk took less than 30 minutes. A few coworkers wished me luck. Damien approached before I left. I honestly didn't know you were competing for the promotion, he admitted. I believe you. I'm sorry things happen this way. I shook his hand. I hope everything works out for you. He hesitated. Would you mind explaining the infrastructure before you leave? I'm sure you'll figure it out. All the code was still in the repository. Good luck. At 2:15 that afternoon, I drove away from Apex Technologies for the last time. The first phone call arrived the following morning. Keith. I ignored it. Then another. Then another. Soon, HR started calling. Then the CTO. I answered none of them. Instead, I enjoyed something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. I slept 9 uninterrupted hours. No emergency alerts. No late-night outages. No production fires. Just silence. The next day, I updated my resume. Within hours, every recruiter I'd contacted replied. One already had interviews waiting for me. Meanwhile, the phone continued ringing. Keith, HR, the CTO, unknown numbers. Even Damien texted. Hope you're okay. I'd love to buy you coffee and learn more about the systems whenever you have time. I never replied. Friday morning, I finally listened to the voicemails. Keith sounded desperate. Thea, we're experiencing technical problems. I'm authorized to offer you $200 an hour as a consultant. Please call me back. Interesting. My salary had worked out to roughly $62 an hour. Apparently, my value had tripled overnight. The CTO's message was shorter. We need to speak urgently. HR wanted an exit interview and knowledge transfer. Knowledge transfer. That was corporate language for nobody knows how anything works except you. I deleted every message. Later that afternoon, another recruiter called. A company named Zenith Solutions wanted to interview me for a principal systems architect position. The salary started 40% higher than my Apex salary. I scheduled the interview for Monday. That evening, Keith sent one final text. Please, multiple clients are down. Name your terms. That single message confirmed everything. The automation I'd built had quietly protected the company for years. Now it was gone. The infrastructure hadn't suddenly broken. It had always been weak. I had simply hidden those weaknesses. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened a book, and ignored the phone. By Friday night, I had over 100 missed calls. Saturday morning, my phone rang again. This time I answered. It was Lawrence Morrison, Apex's CTO. Theodora, we've had outages affecting 17 major clients. I see. I'm told you created several automation systems. I created tools that improved reliability. They're no longer working. I disabled my personal automation when I resigned. The core infrastructure is exactly as it was when I joined Apex. Silence. Finally, Lawrence admitted. I didn't realize how much you were actually doing. That's my failure. For the first time, someone in leadership acknowledged the truth. Then he made an offer. We'd like you back. Senior Systems Architect. 30% salary increase. Signing bonus. I remained quiet. I actually have another interview Monday. We'll make you Principal Architect instead. 40% increase. You'd report directly to me. A week earlier, that would have been my dream job. Now, I wasn't sure I wanted it anymore. I asked Lawrence one question. What happens to Keith? He paused. His decisions are under review. And Damien? We'll move him into project management. He's admitted the technical role wasn't the right fit. So Keith would probably keep his career. Damien would land safely in another position, and I'd return to fix the disaster they created. I thanked Lawrence for the offer, but told him I needed the weekend to think. That afternoon, I wrote down every moment Apex had made me feel invisible. Working through Christmas while Keith vacationed, training people who were promoted above me, watching my ideas ignored until someone else repeated them. Being told to smile more if I wanted executives to notice me. Each incident seemed small by itself. Together they told one story. Apex didn't value me. It only valued the work I produced. Sunday I visited my parents. After hearing everything, my father smiled. They don't value you, sweetheart. They just need you. That sentence stayed with me all night. Monday morning, I interviewed at Zenith Solutions. The difference was obvious from the moment I walked inside. The interview wasn't about office politics. It was about engineering, architecture, leadership, building reliable systems. People actually understood the work I did. Near the end, the VP smiled. We've wanted someone with your experience for months. We're prepared to make you an offer today. Principal Systems Architect, a 58% salary increase, annual bonus, equity, flexible schedule, 4 weeks of vacation. Then she asked, "Why not return to Apex?" I answered honestly, "Because I don't think I'll ever truly be valued there." She nodded. "People stay here because they're valued, not because they're trapped." Those words made my decision easy. Sitting in my car afterward, I called Lawrence. "I appreciate everything, but I'm declining." He sounded disappointed. "We're giving you everything you've asked for. You're offering it because you have to, not because you wanted to." Silence. Finally, he sighed. "You're probably right." Before ending the call, I gave him one last gift. My automation scripts aren't deleted. They're inside the repository. You're free to use them. He sounded genuinely surprised. "After everything? You're still helping us?" "I built those systems for hospitals, banks, and public services, not for Keith." After a long pause, he quietly replied, "I'm sorry. You deserved better." "I know." Then I accepted Zenith's offer. 3 weeks later, I started my new job. The difference was unbelievable. My workstation was ready. Leadership welcomed me personally. The CEO left a handwritten note thanking me for joining. Instead of fighting for resources, my manager asked, "What do you need to succeed?" Within my first month, we improved deployment times by 30%. System alerts dropped dramatically. The engineering team loved collaborating. Nobody cared who got the credit, only that the work was excellent. A few months later, my manager called me into her office. "We're expanding. We'd like you to become Director of Infrastructure." At Apex, I had spent 3 years begging for one promotion. At Zenith, leadership found me. I didn't have to chase opportunity. Opportunity came looking for me. Months later, I ran into Damien at a technology conference. He smiled. "I left Apex too." He explained that after I resigned, everything became chaotic. Eventually, the system stabilized using the documentation I'd left behind. Keith had been reassigned. Damien discovered he enjoyed technical sales far more than engineering. Then he surprised me. "I owe you an apology." I accepted a promotion I hadn't earned. "You deserved it." I smiled. Honestly, if that hadn't happened, I'd never have found Zenith. We shook hands and wished each other well. There was no bitterness. Damien had never been the problem. The culture had been. 2 years later, I was Vice President of Infrastructure at Zenith. I led dozens of engineers around the world. The company went public. My stock options paid off my student loans and helped me buy a home. More importantly, I helped build the kind of workplace I'd always wanted. One where people were recognized before they threatened to leave. One where loyalty worked both ways. During my second work anniversary, my team surprised me with a cake. Across the top, it read, "2 years of not answering their calls." Everyone laughed. They asked me to give a speech. I looked around the room and said, 2 years ago, I believed being indispensable was success. I was wrong. Being indispensable can become a prison. What matters is being valued. Your worth doesn't increase because someone finally notices you. It was always there. You simply need to find the place that recognizes it. The room erupted into applause. That evening, I packed my laptop and headed home. The servers were running perfectly. Not because one exhausted engineer carried everything alone, but because an entire team shared responsibility. That's the difference between being needed and being valued. I never called Apex back. I never regretted walking away. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making people fail. It's proving you were never the one who needed them. They needed you. And once you realize your worth, you stop begging for a seat at the wrong table. You find a place where your work speaks for itself.